Okay, well, we're at the point where we've knocked out those bars so they can be independently animated, and the only other animation thing we're going to have to do is get that cage to be bent out. So that could be a bit tricky. There is a distortion that one can do. I think if we go into edit mode and we grab this, we can distort it. We can come in like this. Let's see, that's like all of them now. It's not all of them. Let's try it again, but this time go into X-ray mode and then grab all these points. And then we might be able to go to a distortion modifier, broadcasting techniques that I'm learning. Maybe if we go to a, can you give me a, because I'm broadcasting live, can you give me a washcloth? Come here, Nye. So there is there's a warp, a UV warp, there's a deform. Okay, so mesh deform, that might be the one. And if we then move it, no, it's not deforming it right. There's a dynamic you can do, precision, the object that you're going to use, it could be, yeah, vertex group. Okay. Thank you. Come here, buddy. Bring your face here.
I'm eating.
I know, it's great that you're eating. Here, give me your hand. Hand. Okay. Put that away. Thank you. So, or maybe it's as simple as
My hands are dirty.
grabbing these vertices here and let's see, maybe if I use G in Y, no, that obviously does not work. So maybe this is too complex a form to get a good warping on, because that just takes it there. If you do a displacement, vertex group, the object, I mean, it's mesh deform. No, it's not necessarily going to work. Displace, surface deform, warp maybe. It's not from object, from an object to.
Tato doesn't want that you eat in her room.
So it might be that we have to put an object from, maybe it's about creating a cube and then shrinking the cube down. And maybe move that up a little bit. And maybe we have to scale it in Z. So if that becomes the displacement cube, let's see, what is this called here? Oh, we're in edit mode and I shouldn't be in edit mode. Oh, okay, whoops. Okay, let's not do that. Let's go out of this, go back into object mode, and let's put in a, add that cube, and shrink the cube down, and then scale the cube up in Z. Like so. And we'll call this cube, let me find it by hitting the period key here. I'll call this inner cube, or better, cube inner. All right, let me duplicate it with Shift, oops, duplicate C. Duplicate this with Shift D, and move it forward in the Y-axis, like that, and call this cube outer. Okay, now if I grab this mesh and I have warp on it, and I tell it that I want to warp object from cube inner. Should be down here somewhere, that's all. There's cube inner and object to cube outer, and then the strength of it. And it ain't done nothing. Preserve the volume. That didn't do anything. Fall off, smooth. Radius. Oh, there it goes. Okay. That's something. Alright, there we go. Okay. So, apparently it is warping, but it's not warping what we want it to warp. I'm not sure why. If I uncheck preserve volume, nope. So, the concept is good. No fall off. Curve. Wow, look at that. Okay. So what that implies that this geometry, well, A is too complex, but it's also each bar probably needs its own cube. So let me get rid of that, and if I take this cube inner and I shrink it like that, and then move it up here, and then do the same thing. Well, I can actually get rid of this one. I'll duplicate this, and then move it in Y. So that's cube inner, and this is cube inner 1. Cube inner, cube outer 1. Okay, so when we do this and we add the modifier of the warp, and we choose cube inner 1 and then cube outer 1, and we start to move it. Okay, that didn't do anything. Fall off. Change the radius. Okay, whoa. We put it to 0, and then see. So the strength has got nothing to do with it, or maybe it's got a little bit to do with it. It's really the radius. All right, so there we have that one. But what we're going to have to probably do is make a discrete object for this, because it's got a different, the vertex group. I'm not sure how you use vertex group in this at all. So I think I'm going to have to make separate objects out of each of these, because I don't think in edit mode you can, yeah, edit mode doesn't do those modifications. It's only in object mode. So what to do? So if I go back in tab here and I select all of these, no, don't want to do that. What if I go in here, maybe I can group these as a single object, but if I do that, if I do a Control J, no, because we're in edit mode, so it's not going to do anything there. Subdivide, extrude, unsubdivide. It's not really going to do anything. If I go in and look at the points, so you've got these join points, and they're creating a bit of a mess. But on the other hand, they could act as joints. Boy, oh boy. You can't move them. I mean, you could if we were able to grab all of them, I suppose. So for that, we need to turn into X-ray and then see if that, yeah. So for some reason, it's not grabbing everything. There's way too many points in here. And I don't think we need them, of course. We don't need that geometry at all. All these points here, like who needs them? But then how would you, like that you can get rid of. That we can get rid of. These points, you could merge the vertices. Collapse, nope, didn't want to do that, that's bad. We could merge vertices. Add cursor by distance, separate, split, dissolve vertices. No. Yeah, that's the problem. Like, how are we going to get this thing to bend? And so it almost implies that we may have to do what I've done previously and just make my own cage out of very simple material, because this is a nightmare. Because if I were to make a cage, let's say that I add a cube and then scale that cube down. Oh, we're in the edit we're in the wrong. Let me go back to object mode. Let's try this again. I'll just take this cube for now. And I'm going to come over here and move. Ooh, still got that displacement modifier on it, which is great. It's great that we learned that, but we don't need it right now. All right, so if I took this cube and I bring it on top of the cage, and then if I were to scale it in Y, like that, and then if I were to go and scale it in Z, move it, GZ, and then we're to scale it in X, and move it in X. Alright, so if I were to create my own bar there, forget that it's not have the curve. Then if I wanted to warp it, let's see what happens if I warp it. I guess I'm going to have to duplicate this. I didn't name this. This is called top cage bar top, and this is on the, let's see, right side. And then I make this again and move it in Y. All right. So if I was on cage bar top right, and I were to, because this is now called cube outer, I'm going to call this warp cube so that I know what I'm doing. Okay, and this one is warp cube. Okay, so there's my warp cubes. And then I take my cage top bar and I add the modifier of a warp and go from cage. What happens here? Where did it go? cage bar, we have warp. It's all the way down here. Warp, warp, warp. Warp cube inner to the warp cube outer. Okay. And now with fall off radius. So it doesn't even bend. There's no warping going on there. Oh, it does warp down that way. Alright, well that's not useful. So then I've got to figure out, alright, if I want to warp this, then I'm going to have to subdivide. So to subdivide, you've got to go into edit mode, and then go to subdivide, and go to subdivide, and subdivide. Let's try that many subdivisions. But then do I even need that? Because then I can go like this and just go G. Yeah, so what if I, it's got to be a fall off. Okay, so that's where the fall off comes. Let's try that again. Warp. If I do the strength, it doesn't do anything right now. So you have to have an object from and an object to. So warp cube inner to warp cube outer. And then you have a fall off, a smooth fall off, and it didn't do a darn thing. Vertex group, I don't know what that does. So I don't really know. I mean, it obviously there is some kind of bending that should be able to be achieved with this if you grab a certain vertex and you warp it. If you preserve the volume, no, it doesn't do anything. So it's not bending. Curve radius. Nope. Okay. Nope. So the modifier was a simple deform. Then the angle, the origin, set the origin. Aha! Now we're getting somewhere. Yeah, I don't want that, don't want that, but that. Okay, so now we're getting toward a curve with an angle. Alright. Now that's very bizarre. I don't know why it's doing it like that. We don't want to bend or twist, a taper, or a stretch. Okay. Aha! Alright. So we've learned something. Now that's what we can do with our own things. What if we take the actual tank itself and we add a modifier and go to a simple deform? Oh my goodness gracious. Okay. It's an angle of 5. The axis, the origin could be this inner cube. So Y and Z. Restrictions, lock X. Okay. And warp. So lock X, do it on the y-axis. That's not necessarily good. Lock Z. Doesn't do a darn thing. Limits 0 and 1, and still I don't understand the. There's bend. That was twist. So if we do this on the x-axis, that's bend. What about stretch? No. That's if you lock that would stretch it. If we bend it, maybe if it was two halves, it would probably work.
Mama, I forgot Bruce baby.
Now why am I getting into this? I don't want that. Yes, a simple deform. Yeah, don't know if we can use the cage as it is.
You're good.
Thank you, Nye. So maybe there's a mesh deform, Laplacian, or there's just curve object. It's not going to help. Deform axis, so forget that. Add modifier, mesh deform. Object is the cage. What is this one called? Who are we? IBC cage. So let's go to IBC cage. Do I have IBC cage? Cage. It's not letting me grab just the cage. That's what it's called, IBC cage. If you grab it and go, I want this, that's the object. I don't know why it's suggesting. No, it's not letting me do that. Alright, so mesh deform ain't the thing. Smooth the place in the surface to form warp and wave. So it seems like simple deform is our best. That's our best idea. And so if I were to, because now I can. So the only thing is. That was stretch. Did we try bend? No, bend doesn't work. So it's stretch that we are doing. And the only thing is that when we model this, we've got to scale it in X. That's actually where we would be bending. And maybe it's possible to add this mesh and then delete the others. And then this would be able to be bent and be able to keep the other part. So, like this. Let me get rid of the simple deform for now. And let me scale this a little bit in again and scale it in so that it fits. We'll go to 7 and bring this some Y and bring this right in here. Maybe it needs to be scaled a little more. in Y, so it's a little thinner. All right. And then if I'm going to make these transparent, I think, or just hide them for now. They're still there, but I've hidden them. So I'm going to find my piece that I just made. There it is. And then I guess I'll make it a little longer. Scale in X. Right. And then if I take this object and I do Control J, now it's part of the object. And when I go and look and edit, I have all those bends there. I may be able to now get rid of these 2 points. So I'm going to go into X-ray mode, get rid of these points, get rid of these points, get rid of these points, and I guess I really don't need all those. Those are just a mess. So I've got to clean this model up considerably. And there's all these other points here that are unnecessary. But get rid of these. Certainly get rid of all these. Get rid of these. So making this work, yeah, I don't know what this is. All these extra points, which I'll have to go in and assiduously get rid of bit by bit. But it might be that because I joined them, so if this works, then in that bar, when I add to it a modifier, which is the simple deform, stretch, yeah, that's a mess. So maybe that's not the way to do it. Simple deform, the origin was the warp inner. And so that one does bend like it's supposed to. I mean, the whole thing gets bent, but it looks like, as you can see, the object is bending, and it's bending the way I want it to, but the rest of the points are really messed up. But the concept is good. I think the concept is really strong. So when we go into here and we turn this off, there's a lot of distraction stuff in here. And I wish I knew what those blue lines were for. So if I could get rid of those blue lines like that there, I don't think I need that. I don't think I need that. Yep, so that may help. Whatever those blue lines were about, I don't really know. So get rid of that one, get rid of these vertices. I hope I didn't mess anything up. There's still these little dots here. Okay, so now we're much better off. We're cleaner. And when I gotta get rid of all that. I'm going to go to a selection circle tool. It's a lot faster. Circle selection tool. So as we clean this up, then when we go into object mode and we go to our simple deform and go to stretch and go to our warp cube and then taper it out. Now it's still got those lines in there, but there's fewer of them. So what are those lines? You can see those lines in there. And you can see the displacement.
This baby. Hey, first, I got this baby.
I don't know if these. I mean, we want the curve. If I get rid of all of this, then I have no curve at all. So that's not good. So I think we're back to having to recreate the entire cage. I think that's the only way to really make this work for our purposes. I think that the geometry of this is just so complex. And whatever we sacrifice in terms of the, yeah, we just have to recreate this. So I think what we do then is we didn't save that, so we're just gonna open this again, don't save it. There we are, there's our cage, and we're just gonna recreate the cage ourselves so that we have more control because the geometry is so bad. So that's all we basically can do. Because I don't think, even if I come in here, like, all these points are just crazy. So yeah, make our own cage. Maybe we should have made everything from scratch and not tried to use what was given to us. So maybe what I'll have to do is go into a top view and just start making cubes. So I'm going to go add cube and scale it down and move it up and scale it down again, move it in Y and scale it in X. Then we can worry about the curvature later on. Just make a box, really. That's about all we can really hope to do. Get on my face, yeah. All right, and then take this bar. I don't know what we're doing in edit mode. Oh, I was doing the whole thing in edit mode. Darn it. Goodbye. Goodbye. Okay. Do this in object mode. All right. All right. Okay. Object mode. Again. Add mesh cube. Scale the cube down in Z. Scale the cube in X. Move the cube in Z. Alright. Scale the cube in Y. Move the cube in Y. Scale the cube in Y. It's still a bit too thick. Alright. Move the cube in Y. Name this top bar right. Alright, now if we like that, then let's see, maybe what I'll do is I will actually move this down in Z just a bit. Now I've got to bend it. So to bend it, I can scale it out in X a little more. And then subdivide by going into Edit, subdivide, do this from the front, subdivide, subdivide, subdivide. That should give us enough sections to do our bend. Now, if we grab, or is that subdivided enough? Well, here's what we can do is we can grab the area where we want the curve. Oh, yuck. Edit. All right, we're in edit mode. Grab where we want the curve and subdivide it further and further, and then grab this and I want to bend all that, so there we have to put a deform on that. So if I go to the modifier and I do a simple deform, and I'm deforming it in the z-axis. Ooh, that didn't look good. And do a bend or a stretch, I'm not sure which. The origin, so that ain't gonna work. Factor, axis of bend. Okay, that's not gonna work. What about bend? So you'd have to pick an origin, and that means if you're gonna bend around an object, then you're going to have to put a bending object in there. So I have in here, I need to make a warp thing. So I'm going to add a cube, scale it way down. Oh, we're still inside the edit thing of this, so that's no good. So I need to get out of this, and I need to add cube.
They have blueberries. They have blueberries.
And they were jumping up and down.
So there's so many parameters to consider here. But if I'm going to use this to bend around, then I would say that this is called warp cube. I'm going to call it bend cube.
I'm hiding.
And then if you take this and see, but then that's not going to work, because if I add it and do a simple deform, even though I tell it that the origin is bend cube 1, it's going to bend everything around it. It's not going to bend just the end of it.
I'm hiding the seal. You want to hide the seal?
I would like to hide it
So it does bend, but not the way we want it to. So that's not going to work. And if I go into edit mode and I take this, even if I rotate, yeah, that's not going to work. Because I can stretch these things, but I can't really bend them. If I try to do section by section,
Hey, monkey, look here. Here, Dick, go.
if I rotate this around the z-axis, I can go like that or like that. But rotating all of this around the z-axis, that's the best you can do. So, I mean, I can do like progressive bends. Another thing I might be able to do, what if I cut all of this, let me see, what if I cut all of this off from here, and in the edit mode, if I hit delete, I get rid of that. Now if I go to this, and I say extrude in, where am I? In Y, nope, not extrude in Y. Extrude is E in X, and then rotate. No, it's not going to do it. Rotate. If I go like this, so if you do extrude in X, and you go like that, and then you say extrude in X, and you go like this. When we get to the point where we need to curve, we could go extrude in X and then rotate. Nope, didn't do it. Rotate. You can slightly rotate. So you need to do ER. I can do extrude in X maybe. You need to go E, X, and then rotate in rotate Z and extrude. No, extrude Y. No, extrude X. Rotate C, and then extrude in X, and then extrude in X again. But then you got to rotate and then extrude. It's not really telling me how to extrude. Extrude in XY? No, can't do that. Maybe turn it to local. This is global, so if we go local, and then extrude in Y is there, extrude in X, and orient by rotating, and extrude in X, extrude in Y. No, I'm flummoxed then.
You want all that noise?
Sure. Yeah, so the extruding thing ain't happening. So I've got to figure out another way to bend the curve. Not so easy to make a curve. Now you see why this guy made stuff so complex. If I make a separate object of this, what if I take all this that I want to bend, and if I go separate by selection, and now it's a separate object. And that's a separate object. Now if I take that top bar for bend, I take that one and I put the modifier, which would be the simple deform. say bend, pick this object. Oops. All right, pick this object and then bend it on the z-axis. There we go. I mean, that's possible. You'd have to then be able to rotate this on the z, but to do that, you'd need to go back into global and then rotate it on the z. It still doesn't work because the origin is in the wrong place. So you have to go object, set origin to geometry. Now when we rotate it in z, there we go. Move it. It's all messed up until we make it work. But the concept is good. We move this. And this is too big, so let me, there.
Dinosaurs!
Well, at least now we're getting somewhere.
Dinosaurs are scary. No.
Move this down.
What are you doing? Oh no, Vince is down there. I will get him now. I will get him. Get your feet away. I will get him.
And then move this. Whoops, can't do that because
You will get stuck.
it's really messed up. So if we go and move this in Y, nope, the bending is still, the bending would have to be done first before we can do it.
Wunderschönes Abziegsschach.
Hey!
Are you recording?
Yeah, that's only at Z is the only way to do it. So with this bend cube in place, that could work. So I'm going to probably have to do a lot of work on this, but if this piece here was now applied, then I can move this into place. And I have more flexibility in terms of rotating it and moving it now that it's been applied, but I can't do anything more with it. So I do have a curve though, and maybe it's good enough for what they call government work. So if I go like this and if I have this curve and I say, oh, I'm satisfied with that,
Oh, I'm so happy that I was saved. Otherwise I would
and
down there still. Oh, I'm not going to the edge again.
move this up in Z
Someone help her. I will help her.
painstakingly, certainly.
There you go, Bushy.
Right. So I've got a curve, and I've got this,
Take me away from this robot!
one here.
Oh no! A robot has catched Bushy!
Alright, so now it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it might work for people's imagination.
You were saying
Because if I
we
can
got to build something so the robots
this.
can go to us.
and then take these vertices, tab into them, and say to it, okay, well you're not so good. Right? But what if I straighten these out by moving them?
Maybe the robot knows where Creepy is. I will go in
just
and look
that-
if he knows it.
It's so subdivided, so maybe there's a way to get rid of all
Hey,
those
robot!
subdivisions,
Where is Creepy?
since the subdivisions are there. So if we were to
Okay.
merge
I know what's
vertices,
Creepy.
snap vertices, merge them, dissolve them, merge them, no. I know.
Creepy isn't there where I thought he would be. I don't know.
There's so many vertices there. And really, it's a cube, so we don't need
I can't see Creepy.
that many vertices.
Maybe Killian knows where Creepy is. Hey, Killian! Do you know where Creepy is? No. Oh, no!
So certainly if we grab it and move it up, we have that. We can take all of the, run this right. We can take, oh, we're still in object mode. Yeah, we can take all these vertices and extrude them, or just grab them and move them in X to here to close this up. And then do the same thing with these.
Me too?
And then go like that. And then do the, but how do you grab all these so that they merge in?
Where are you, Blue Baby?
You're all hiding here.
That's a trick I don't know how to do. Because even if I grab it and move it in X, how do I merge these vertices? I suppose this is where you could go into object mode and join these two objects with Control J. And then, since they're joined, come into here and say, look, I want to close this up. To do it, merge vertices at center. Oh, that's ugly. Kind of worked though. Where did you guys go? Merge vertices, collapse. Oh, not so good. I don't see you. Where? Look for you. All right, I'm going to sign off for a moment. We've got some techniques we've learned, and we're going to get there. It's just a matter of continuing to blunder through Blender.